during 2019, and then finally the budget assumptions. I'll try to squeeze everything within the 20-25 minutes allocated to me, but let's see how this goes. I'm going to make use of a PowerPoint presentation. Someone will move it for me. I'll just say next slide, and we keep moving. So that's the outline, and I'll also spend a bit of time, well, not too much time, but highlight our arrears clearance in terms of external debt roadmap. Next slide, please. So just to put everything in context, Mr. Speaker said, and colleagues, we are in a global economy that is expanding, and we're expecting GDP growth this year to about 3.7 and maybe 3.9% next year. And this is mainly driven by the large emerging markets, such as India and China, especially India in terms of averages. But within the developed world, it is robust growth, mainly from the US, driven by the tax cuts that we've seen, among other things, take place in the US. Even the import controls barriers are presumed to add something positive to the dynamism and growth of the US economy. So without referring to the big figures, so I don't bore with them, just the story, that it is important that as Zimbabwe we keep track, especially of the growth in area regions such as China, such as India, because that is what drives our commodity prices and gives them the trajectory that we expect, which is a positive one. Of course, what's never positive for Zimbabwe is the oil price, because we're a net oil importer. So the oil price hovering around $73, $75 per barrel in terms of band, that's never a positive thing for us, because we're a net oil importer, we're a net petrol, diesel importer. So, but this strong growth in these markets keeps those commodity prices high. What's positive for us, though, is the other commodities, which is your minerals and your agricultural commodities. So when there is strong growth in China and India, that is good for our other commodities that we rely on. We're net exporters of your ferrochrome and other commodities, but net importers of oil, and we can see how that works. So we have to keep track of growth in the global economy for that reason. And that is the picture so far. Next slide. We again, just within the context of nations, in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa specifically, because as a destination for foreign direct investment, we compete with other nations in Africa. And I've been saying it for the last few weeks, we want to be the gateway into the rest of Africa, absolutely, in terms of the country that we open for business. But that requires that we must constantly benchmark ourselves against other countries within the region, within sub-Saharan Africa. Therefore, it is not surprising that I've got that chart up there, which shows where we are in terms of our own economic growth, which we're anticipating to be the order of 6% by year end, vis-a-vis the rest of sub-Saharan Africa at about 3.8%. And of course, what has been dragging down growth in the rest of sub-Saharan Africa is mainly South Africa, Nigeria, Angola, and Egypt, because those are the largest. No, let's leave out Egypt, it's North Africa. Let's say Angola, South Africa, Nigeria. Those are very large economies within the basket of sub-Saharan African countries. They drag that down, but we are doing very well. We are actually, if that 6% rate of growth is achieved, Mr. Speaker said, we will be certainly in that 6% club, as we call it, which include nations such as Rwanda, Ghana, and so forth, and Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, that have got high rates of growth, about 6%. This context, honorable members, is very important. We compete with other countries. We must constantly benchmark ourselves. We are not an island. Next slide, please. So the state of the economy in more detail, Mr. Speaker said, Honorable Vice President Yambuya, I just 2 points on this very busy slide. Probably the first point and the last point, bullet point, which is that your economy, members of Parliament, is larger than we thought. I've mentioned this before, but just for emphasis, It was rebased from the base in 2009 after US dollarization to a new base in 2012 because the composition of the various sectors has changed. The sector has grown. You notice agricultural sector has shrunk in terms of its contribution to GDP, just sector weightings. Other sectors have just expanded over time. As a result, the size of the economy, which we used to say was about $18 billion in terms of GDP, is now $25 billion, so it's 40% bigger. Next slide, please. This is, data on how the sectors have moved around. I won't spend too much time on it, but one thing to take home is that the services sector has grown, and some of our traditional sectors that were large before are now slightly smaller. But those are the numbers you can see, 2009 versus 2012. You can make quick notes on that to see what I mean. Next slide, please. I won't again talk about the detail of the sectors, but I can always come back in Q&A. Next slide, please. So again, just to highlight the fact that we expect growth to be on the order of 6% year-end, 6.3% to be priced according to that slide. But we're constantly monitoring the performance of the economy. We know that in October we had a shock on prices, on the availability of foreign currency. It's a shock to the economy, and this will impact growth in the last quarter. So watching the numbers, and I think once we have the full numbers for October, we'll be able to adjust this growth focus. But I'm confident that we'll remain in that order of 6% without difficulty. Next slide, please. I've already said something about inflation officially. President and Mr. Speaker said in September our inflation was 5.39%, but October we expect it to be higher. We're still receiving the figures for that, but we expect it to be higher. And it was mainly driven by the shock in terms of the foreign currency angle, the shortages, movements in the power market, premium transmitted into the real sector, and all that caused a sharp movement in prices. Therefore, the action that we took by lifting the SI 122 structural instrument in terms of the imputation of a basic commodity, it should not surprise you, because we're trying to deal with two things. We're trying to deal with inflation shock, also trying to deal with commodity supply, just the quantum, to make sure that we start depressing prices and the shelves are full again. But also it was a way to respond to those who had decided to hoard and speculate before they offloaded their goods onto the shelves. And I think so far so good, that has worked. But we are aware that prices still remain high. I was watching the price of cooking oil in Rewa, getting a report on it, and I've seen that it has dropped. I think literally from $20 where it was at some point down to long term. Next slide, please. On the external sector, what we're finding that we still have challenges with our current account deficit, although I must say that the latest figures for September are not too bad, at 127 million for that month, which is better than expected. But this continues to be a challenge, so we have what you call a typical twin deficit problem. Fiscal deficit, which I'll come to in a moment, and this external sector, the deficit where the demand for imports is much higher than our export performance, leaving us in that deficit which continues to put pressure on the demand for forex. We're just not exporting enough, or rather we're consuming too much exports, and we just wonder whether we perhaps, as we discuss, we ought to be asking those importing luxury goods to start paying duty in the currency in which they sourced those goods, whatever that currency is. Those are some of the ideas that start emerging when we see this runaway current account deficit. Let's press on. I've just got more detail on the agricultural sector. We'll hear more over the next few days from the Minister of Agriculture. But you can see there in terms of productivity, that's maize, cotton, soybeans, 2016 to 2018. Those graphs are picking up quite a bit, especially for soybeans. So we have made a lot of progress, and I think it's fair to say that without programs such as Command Agriculture, would not be having the 500,000 tons as part of our strategic reserves, which will probably see us through the potential El Nino challenges, which seem to be looming in the next few months. But the Minister of Agriculture will elaborate. Mr. Speaker said, Chairman, there are issues though around the property rights around land. We need to really finalize the issue around 99-year leases so that we can begin to crowd in the private sector, the banks, so that they can extend loans to the farming community, and also we can extend guarantees as well. So this is an urgent matter that needs to be finalized. We are also aware that in this sector there are looming issues around, outstanding issues around the compensation. Action exports, looking for quick wins, and then governance and forms. But what we will do is this TSP will run for 2 years, and then 5 years, and then beyond 5 years. Thereafter, with 5 years, we will have another strategy, and then another 5 years, another strategy to take us to 2030, which is our year for our realization of being an upper middle income country. I don't want to repeat to say really that the TSP has fiscal consolidation issues, and then micro issues around supporting agriculture, mining, and all the other sectors, the environment for doing business, policy reform, the legislative agenda, is everything. I urge you to read it, particularly the back of the TSP, which has got very clear programs of action and projects that each of our government departments sees with, and they are targeting their being monitored in terms of the results they should confirm. I'm just going to paraphrase. I think that when it comes to a sector like the industry sector, the industrial sector, Mr. Chairman, there's just need to really accelerate, rather enhance the capacity to support retooling, but also to support entrepreneurs, but also to make sure that the tax system, the fiscal regime is better linked to job creation. And I'll be saying that in a moment when it comes to implementing that sanction. Of course, crowding a foreign investor or any investor that's correct. Number two, make sure that the diaspora can participate in the privatization opportunity. And at least on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, we make it easier for them to participate, but also locally and domestically, other people will do the same. But also, maybe a portion of what the government owns should also be reserved for plugging the hole on the liability that we have for the pensions that were lost after the hyperinflation period a few decades ago. We still have that hole to close where you lost your pensions, and the government has to work hard to plug that hole, but also working in the private sector and doing so. So there's a reason why we need to privatize. These assets are owned by the people. Let's help the people with their own assets to plug certain holes that have been created.